Have you ever wondered where the apps on Google Play Store or the websites that you would probably have posted on the internet are stored? Let's think about this. They can't just be stored in air, can they? They are stored on a platform called as a cloud. To know more about cloud, stay tuned. Now, what is cloud computing? Well, go ahead, search this on the internet on your favorite web browser, Google it. Now, let me help you with that. The definition you would get in Google is the practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than a local server or a personal computer. Oof, that's really tough to understand, isn't that? It's not wrong, it's technically completely correct, and the people who are currently using cloud would be completely satisfied with the definition given. Well, what about the beginners? It would be really hard for them to understand, isn't it? So let me give you an example to explain this better. Now, how do you buy goods or how do you buy ordinary products? You probably purchase them from a retailer. Now, what happens in the background? The retailer purchases it from a trader. The trader gets it from a producer. And this is called as a chain of markets, isn't it? Now, can you go directly and get the goods or the product from the producer? No, he wouldn't be willing to actually give that, would he? And you would have to buy that in a large bulk. And this is where cloud computing comes into place. In cloud computing, there is a basic idea of pay for what you use. So in cloud, you pay for the storage or the data that you have currently uploaded or deployed in the cloud, and instead you don't pay for the data that is not utilized by you or by the excessive storage space that could have been bought by you. So let me give you another example, a power plant. So do you know why the electricity from the power plant is generated? Let us think. No, we wouldn't be knowing that. Instead, we would just plug it into our phone and just use it to maybe charge our phones, etc. And the last example would be of a person in a rented house. Now, let me give you a scenario. You are the only person, and what would you prefer? Would you prefer renting a single bedroom house or probably buying a mansion? You would have to end up paying a lot of money for buying a mansion and you would not use complete out of it. Whereas if you're in a 1 BHK rented house, then you can use as per your needs and you can also upgrade whenever you need to. Now, in the field of cloud computing, there is a term known as a virtual machine. So now let me come into technical terms and explain you cloud computing. Now, in technical terms, it would be the data that is not physically stored in your hard disk, rather would be physically stored on somebody else's data farm or data server, etc. Now, how is this possible, isn't it? Let's think. How do you access websites on the internet? Well, you would tell me you have an IP address. Now, okay, I agree, there's an IP address, but where is this website or the code? So there's a code obviously needed for any application to run, am I right? So where is this code actually stored? It can't be just stored in the air. It can't just be floating around us and whenever we want, we can access it. Well, it's something close to that, but it's not air. It's an actual physical database by the cloud service provider who stores his data for us. Hence, the cloud acts as a virtual machine for us, storing our data, and we can access this data or edit it whenever needed or whenever we want without any difficulties. Now, let us talk about the entities or the organizations that are currently using cloud computing. A very famous one would be Amazon and other shopping sites. Now, let me give you an example. How many of you would visit, how many times would you visit Amazon on a daily basis? Maybe 2 to 4 times. How many people would visit Amazon in a day? That's an uncountable number where it keeps increasing and decreasing. So now, what about so when it keeps increasing and decreasing, the data that is needed for the web application to run may be increasing or may be decreasing, and this is all managed with the cloud service provider. Now let's talk about some cloud service providers. Famous ones would be Amazon, or also known as Amazon Web Services, AWS, very commonly known to us, Google or Google Cloud platforms, Microsoft Azure, IBM Cloud, etc. Now, why is cloud actually called a cloud? Well, we have studied in science that a cloud is condensed water vapor. How is this related to computer science? Am I right? Well, it's related because of it has some similarities. Now, cloud in science, a normal cloud which we see in the sky keeps moving from place to place. It never stays still. As the wind blows, it keeps moving, and the size of the cloud is never still as well. It keeps changing. Maybe when it precipitates, it might become smaller, whereas when more evaporation or more humidity takes place, the cloud starts becoming bigger. In the same way, a cloud in the technical terms works in the similar way. Whenever more data is required, the cloud service provider gives you more amount of data in which you can easily access them whenever you need it, and the cloud data always keeps moving. That is, if I want to use it today and somebody else would want to tomorrow, it would not be a problem. And even if million users want to use it on the same day, it will still not be a problem. The lesson here is simple. Any data and or apps you have in the cloud are physically stored on a data center or a server farm. This data can be accessed by the application owner whenever he demands it. Now, who invented cloud computing? It just can't pop off the air, right? This idea has to be created by someone or some organization. Well, it is said that cloud computing was first invented by Joseph Carl Robnet Licklider in the 1960s with his work on ARPANET to connect people and data from anywhere at any time. Well, he didn't name this idea particularly as cloud, but we can relate many facts that are similar with his idea and the present day cloud. Now, there are also other sayings that the cloud was invented by the Google CEO Eric on August 9, 2006. Well, I'm sorry, my bad. He didn't actually invent it, but he first thought of this idea. It is said that he was first thought of this idea, and he spoke about this in an industry and he was introduced to this. He introduced this term in an industry conference. So whenever you store data on your computer, you have to store it in a specific format. Am I right? Now, in this specific format, you have something called as an extension, which tells us what type of file this particular document is. In the same way, you have different types of cloud storages, and this refers to the type of data that is stored in the cloud. So these are the different types of cloud storages. Now, the number one, object storage. Object storage mainly refers to the applications that are developed in the cloud and often take the advantage of object storage's vast scalability and metadata characteristics. All the applications that are developed or are being tested in the cloud refers to, and the data that's produced by them is stored by the object storage. Now, one common example of this would be Amazon Simple Storage Services or Amazon S3. These are ideal for building modern applications from scratch that require scale and flexibility, and can also be used to import existing data stores for analytics, backup or archive. The second type of storage, file storage. In a file storage, some applications need to access shared files and require a file system. So this is similar to the file explorer that you have in your PC. I'm talking about a Windows PC. So this stores all the types of files or any data that is stored in a file format or is stored inside a file and is not an application or a database. So this type of storage is often supported with a network attached storage or NAS server. File storage solutions like Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, and these are ideal for use cases like large content repositories, development environments, media stores, or user home directories. The third and the last type of storage in a cloud is the block storage. Now, in a block storage, this probably refers to the database or ERP system, which often requires dedicated low latency storage for each host. This is an analogous to direct attached storage DAS or storage area network SAN. Block-based cloud storage solutions like Amazon Elastic Bookstores EBS are provinced with each individual server and offer the ultra low latency required for high performance workloads. There are three main types of cloud computing, or the three major building blocks of cloud computing, and they are as follows. The first one is software as a service, or SaaS. When a company wanted to purchase new software in the past, they would be very expensive because they would have to buy the extra storage space or the hardware required for the extra storage space as well. But software as a service easier solves that problem, because all the features or all the requirements by the application owner is directly given by the cloud service providers themselves, and the application owner does not need to worry about much, but only needs to worry about his business. And this helps the application owner a lot, as well as the it improves the scalability of the cloud service provider. A common example of software as a service would be Dropbox. The second one is platform as a service, or PaaS. Now, PaaS allows developers to create applications. They can test the functionality of the applications and also use the data or upload the data of the applications into the cloud using the platform as a service. Now, the difference between PaaS and SaaS are that everything in SaaS is monitored and is also everything is monitored by these cloud service providers themselves, whereas in PaaS almost half of the things have to be monitored by the application owner himself, and half of the things are taken care by the cloud service providers. An example of PaaS would be Play Store. Now, the third one is infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. Infrastructure that users can scale up the amount of space needed at any time. That is, the infrastructure is also owned by the application owner themselves, but only the maintenance of this infrastructure is given by the cloud service provider. In this instance, it is called as an infrastructure as a service. The backend as a service, or BaaS. In this, no backend code is required at all, and the application owner has to worry about the front end only, or has to develop the front end only. The backhand is also handled by this cloud service providers. And common example would be Firebase or Firebase Cloud Firestone. In there, the authentication, the database, and everything else required is maintained by the Firebase community or the Firebase organization themselves. Now, there are different ways you can deploy cloud resources. And okay, now let's discuss about what is deploying. Deploying refers to any data that is uploaded on the internet and can be accessed at any time by any user around the globe. Now, there are different ways that you can actually deploy information or data in technical terms onto a cloud. The first one is using a public cloud. Now, what is a public cloud? Now, okay, what is a public place? A place that can be used by everybody, am I right? So a public cloud is something similar. A cloud, or the data that is stored in the cloud, can be accessed by all the people or any person that is connected on the internet all around the globe. The public cloud allows us to access data whenever we need it, and we can upscale and downscale accordingly to the users that are currently using the web application. Now, one common example of this of a public cloud would be Microsoft Azure. Now, the information or the data that you will store on Microsoft Azure is easily available to most of the people around the globe. In a public cloud, all hardware, software, and other supporting infrastructure is owned and managed directly by the cloud service provider. In a public cloud, you share the same hardware with different organizations that would be using the same cloud. The second type of cloud is a private cloud. Now, what is a private cloud? A private cloud is a method in which you save the data into a cloud, and that data that is in the cloud is only meant for you, or is only limited to one organization, one company, one entity, etc. So, an example would be a database consisting of all the employees and their IDs of a company. Now, this would be limited only to one organization, right? And a different organization, entity, or a different user around the globe should not be able to access this data. Hence, this should be stored in a private cloud. The third type is a hybrid cloud. Now, this is one of the most used clouds, and it is often called the best of both the worlds. Hybrid clouds combine on-premises infrastructure or private cloud with public clouds. A common example of what this would be NASA or government agencies or government websites. So NASA has some information that it would like to keep with itself, such as some secrets, business secrets, etc. And this cannot be accessed by the people around the globe, whereas some upcoming missions or some data on the upcoming missions can be viewed by everybody on the globe. And this all happens in one application or in one web application, and various people can take the data that they want. So it is the combination of both private and public cloud. So now, as I told you about a hybrid cloud, a hybrid cloud supports something called as a cloud bursting. Now, what is cloud bursting? Cloud bursting is an application deployment model in which an application runs a private cloud or data until the storage space is sufficient, and immediately bursts out into a public cloud as soon as this capacity spikes. Let's talk about the advantages versus the disadvantages of a cloud. The advantage. So the first advantage would be access to data from various systems. Now, if let's take an example. You have stored a really personal information or really important confidential information on your PC. Let's currently take this as a presentation. Now, you need to give this presentation to your boss tomorrow, and something happens to your PC, such as you accidentally drop it. Now, all the information that was stored on your hard disk is erased. Oh no, what would you do? I'll tell you. A solution for this would be you would have stored your presentation on a cloud. So now if it was on a cloud, you can access that data, in this case that presentation, from any system, maybe from your boss's personal computer itself. Cloud computing is on-demand availability. So many users currently are using cloud system resources and special data storage and computing power. So it saves computing power without direct active management by the user. The term is generally used to describe data centers available to many users over the internet. So large clouds prominent today give a lot of security, and this is secure because, as I told you, in a private cloud nobody else can access this information, and it is highly secure with various passwords, usernames, etc. And the company or the cloud service provider would not allow anybody to access this data at all costs. And also, this third advantage of using a cloud is the upscalement and downscalement of the data that is present in the web application. Now, let's say you are developing an application, an app, or a web app. Now, when you have developed this, you have to store the data somewhere, or the data that is seen by the or that is used by users. Now, if you have your own data center, then you would need to take care of the for the decrement and increment of the users that are currently using your web application. But all this is now taken care by the cloud, and you don't need to worry about anything. It also saves you a lot of money, and it is a win for both the cloud service provider and the application owner or the person who is currently using the cloud. So this is a common ideal term in cloud known as pay for what you use. So you will only pay for the amount of data or the amount of storage space that you have used for your application from time to time. And there are various examples for this as well. For example, if you are using Google Cloud Platform, then you will be charged on a second basis, whereas if you are using AWS, then you will be charged on an hourly basis. So here you are charged only for 1 hour, or in Google Platform, Google Cloud Platform, you are charged for per second that you're using the cloud. So if you're using 50 minutes of cloud storage space, or 50 minutes, then you will be charged for only 15 minutes in Google Cloud Platform, whereas in AWS you will be charged for the complete hour. So this tells us that different cloud service providers or the services vary from each other. Now, everything has a disadvantage in the world, right? Everything has an advantage, has a disadvantage, and this keeps varying. So the disadvantage of a cloud would be privacy. Now there are two separate terms. One is security and one is privacy. So security means nobody else can access your data. But have you thought about this? When you're saving your data to the cloud service, when you're giving your data to the cloud service provider, he is the one who ensures that it is saved securely. But don't you think a cloud service provider himself can access this data? Yes, you're absolutely correct. He can. But in most of the cases, according to terms and policies of cloud service providers, they're not allowed to do this. They're not allowed to do so. But who knows what happens in the background, am I right? So it is always better to store the data present in a cloud or in an encrypted format in which only you can understand and the cloud service provider may not be able to. So the second disadvantage of a cloud is the control of the backend infrastructure is limited to the cloud vendor only. So if you want any special features in your cloud, you would not, it depends on the cloud vendor whether he would actually want to add this feature to his cloud service or not, and it is only limited to him to do so. So this is all for today, and I would hope to meet you on my other informative sessions. And if you like this video, please do like, subscribe to stay tuned for other informative sessions coming up.